Hi there guys, my name is Zach and welcome to my channel. Amongst other things, I'm a reenactor and a jouster, and today I want to talk about Dark Age helmets. The helmet that I'm wearing at the moment is one that I made myself for LARPing, so it's not battle ready really. If I just take it off, hang on a second. It's not battle ready from a reenacting point of view, and it's not historically accurate either, but it's great for LARPing. And it was one that I was able to make myself to fit my character. Just because it's not historically accurate doesn't mean that I didn't do a lot of research into this, and I've done a lot of research into Anglo-Saxon helmets recently. Unfortunately, that won't be particularly useful for my 1066 project, which is going on at the moment, because my patrons, the lovely people that they are, big thanks to them, names on the screen right now, my patrons actually decided that I'm going to put together a Norman reenactment kit for my journey to the Battle of Hastings. If you want to take part in that, then you can find the link to my Patreon down below. Anyway, so I did a lot of research about Anglo-Saxon helmets because I wanted my LARPing helmet to be something that is historically plausible and something that would work rather than just a random construction. Now, one of the things that I definitely wanted to do was use a mixture of metal. So all the plates in it are brass and in this case leather, because there are some interesting finds from the Anglo-Saxon period that seem to have armor that is made from things like horn and possibly leather as well, but it's using metal, horn, leather together to create a defensive structure. Now, the interesting thing about that is that we would have very, very little archaeological evidence of that sort of thing. The reason why I wanted to bring it up is because my friend over on Leonidas Sparta has just done a video about Viking helmets. Someone in his comment section said that Vikings didn't wear helmets, and because there aren't really many archaeological finds. From the entire Anglo-Saxon period in England, we appear to only have 6 helmets that we actually have an archaeological find of. Now, if we were to have a look at the Bayeux Tapestry, which obviously has some problems of its own, at the end of the Anglo-Saxon period, most of the Saxons wearing armour on that battlefield are wearing helmets. There's only a couple that aren't. So the expectation there is that we should probably have more than 6 helmets, but I'm not entirely sure we should expect that. First of all, coming from the 15th century reenactment era, there are a lot of things that we would expect to have archaeological finds of that we don't, and this is between 500 and 700 years after the High Anglo-Saxon period, where things like the Sutton Hoo helmet is from. Okay, so for example, we know that there was an absolutely huge amount of 15th century armour, a lot of it in the English style, being housed in the Tower of London. And we know, because we have the records of it, that Henry VIII actually ordered all of that armour to be shipped out, cut up and turned into new armour for his household troops. Now, for us, that's absolutely a crime. We would hate it. I mean, I absolutely hate that that is something that happened. But back then, that's just basically the same as taking a bunch of old cars that really aren't doing the job anymore, taking them out down to the scrapyard, getting the scrap value of it and getting them turned into brand new ones. Something that we do a lot of. Anyway, so we know that that happened in the late Middle Ages, but we don't know whether that sort of thing did go on in the Anglo-Saxon period. One of the things that we might expect would be high status objects, such as the Sutton Hoo helmet. I don't know why I'm holding this up, this isn't Sutton Hoo helmet. Such as the Sutton Hoo helmet would be the only survivors. Lower status helmets that that regular troops might wear would not survive. They're not high enough quality to be buried or to be maintained over the long period in between when they were usable and and when they well, when we're looking for them right now. Now, another thing to bear in mind is whether or not they have been found, but whether they have been recognizable. Like I said, we do have evidence from 2 Anglo-Saxon helmets in England that had significant biological substances. So horn helmet, which had a metal core and then probably had horn over the top, and then there was another helmet on the Isle of Wight which was absolutely destroyed by ploughing, but may have had a leather cover as well. Those 2 helmets obviously were found, and there was some evidence of that being found, but we don't know how many items might have, you know, detectorists might have found it and just, oh, it's just a piece of metal, and thrown it away. Maybe it was a rivet, a bunch of rivets and a couple of bars of iron. How would we know that that was actually originally a helmet made of bars of iron with leather covering over the top? Things like that are really hard to find, really hard to quantify how many they had, unless we have written records to back it up, like we do in the late 15th century. Now, the danger of this is that we start thinking, well, because we've only got 6 finds in Anglo-Saxon England, or, you know, really limited finds that we can say were definitely from that period, we might over extrapolate and we might say, well, therefore only extremely rich people wore helmets, that only the highest status. I think that that is going a bit too far. For example, we know that the Roman Empire had thousands upon thousands upon thousands of helmets produced for their legionaries. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of lorica produced for their legionaries. And we have hardly any of those still surviving today. We know that they were widely used by the, well, to call a legionary a basic trooper is going a bit too far, but by the main core of the army. And yet we have very little in the way of archaeological finds to back that up. All this is to say, basically, archaeological finds are brilliant, and it is great that we have access to these historical, beautiful helmets from the Viking Age, from the Saxon Age, but we shouldn't extrapolate from the amount of finds we have as to how many people actually wore these items. We just don't have the ability to say that what we have received is representative of the numbers that were being used on an early medieval post-Roman battlefield. I hope this makes sense. Basically, this video has come out of the fact that I'm now researching what my Norman kit should look like, and it's ridiculously hard to find examples of helmets that come from the 11th century. Obviously there are some, but finding a bunch of them and finding some that haven't actually been tampered with has proved a little bit tricky. If you can help me out with that, then leave a comment in the description down below, because I'd love to find some. I think one of the issues that I find is that there may be 11th century finds from across Europe, as people were wearing very similar items in battle in different countries. So we might have those finds, but they might be on websites that have a different language to that which I'm searching for, and so on. So if you can help me find more evidence for 11th century armor and weapons, that would be wonderful. Like I said, I'm going to be being a Norman, and if you want to help me with that, then you can check out the description down below and head over to my Patreon, where we will be discussing where to go next. Thank you guys, and bye bye.